All right, so a disorder of energy. Some of this stuff we have gone over, and then we'll talk about our resting metabolic rate, which if you've been in my personal training classes, you've learned a lot about. So you're going to be you'll identify differences in both physical and psychological between obese and non-obese people. Explain why fat is our preferred macronutrient for energy storage. Identify food groups for healthy weight management and explain why these are good choices. We're going to analyze Atkins, paleo, keto, etc. for health and weight management advantages and disadvantages. Okay. So here's an example. Sandra is trying to lose weight. She cuts 500 calories a day to lose a target of 1 pound per week. So that's typically what personal trainers will recommend people, is that you want to drop about 500 calories per week, okay? Or maybe 500 calories per day. So 3,500 calories a week, it should be 1 pound. So if we take out 3,500 calories, we should essentially lose 1 pound a week. She works out at a gym, usually in the evenings after school and homework. Sometimes it's after dinner, 8 p.m. or later. Before she gets to the gym, she postpones her usual bedtime. Before bed, she's always hungry again. Sometimes she eats fruit to hold her over until morning, but sometimes even with a snack, she wakes up hungry in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. In the first month, she saw rapid success, but now progress is at a standstill. What could be wrong? What can she do? What do you think can be wrong? What do you think is going wrong here? What do you think she could do? What would you recommend?
I would recommend eating something different before she went to bed.
Okay. Yeah, maybe the fruit before bed, carbohydrates before bed. Maybe not a great idea. Okay.
Maybe she could work out in the morning and go to sleep earlier.
Okay, maybe work out in the morning, go to sleep earlier. Does anybody, a late owl, like to work out at night? Yeah, you like to work out at night? I used to work out, at night too, but I don't remember how much. I think my sleep was pretty good then, but I did change to start to work out in the morning. What would you recommend?
I was going to say eat something different.
Okay, so maybe something different before bed. Maybe trying to eat something before that maybe doesn't spike her. Maybe she's getting hungry because she's eating something for lunch that's raising her blood sugar. Maybe she could add some beans in for lunch. I might, say, what are you eating for breakfast and lunch that you're so hungry now for? Maybe because, obviously if you're going to the gym, you're going to be hungry after, right? So that's why we might want to push our workouts earlier so we can wake up, burn the excess calories, or have our breakfast and then work out and just burn those calories. That way we're not having to try to digest food before bed. I don't typically eat anything after 7. Try to eat everything before by like 6:30. I'm not a big snack kind of person. Like I won't, after dinner, I try to just go brush my teeth 30 minutes after dinner, and then try to just keep my mouth clean. I try not to eat at night. So those are good suggestions. So macronutrients that fuel our cells are used to make ATP, adenotriphosphate. So ATP is what we use when we first burst our energy sources. So if I were to do a sprint from here to the door, that 1 second of energy right there would be used from ATP. I wouldn't need any oxygen, okay? I wouldn't even need any carbohydrate. That's just your body has stored ATP. And then after a couple minutes, I'm gonna replenish my ATP source and I can do 3 high jumps and just use ATP. But eventually, if you keep doing that, you'll deplete it and you'll start going into your carb sources. Okay, ATP fuels everything that we do. Can't draw breath without it. ATP can be produced from stored fat or glycogen, but fat is more convenient to store. Fat does not bind to water, but glycogen does. We would have to carry excess water weight to store all of our extra energy as glycogen, and fat is an efficient energy store. So glycogen binds to water. If you notice it, when you do eat carbs, you tend to kind of hold a little bit more water than if you eat less carbs. I know that my muscles feel fuller when I am full of carbs. I feel better before a workout with full of carbs and that sort of thing. Fat is an efficient energy store, so we tend to store fat because our body, that's what our body is kind of designed to do. We want to be able to store as much fat as possible. We never know when our body's going to go without food, so our body naturally does that on purpose as a self-saving mechanism. So do obese people use energy differently than non-obese people, and do they use energy to do the same work? Is there something wrong with the way they store or burn excess calories? We're going to go ahead and answer that. So one major difference in obese people is that they are less accurate than non-obese people when they estimate quantities of food they have eaten. So when you ask someone who is obese or overweight to portion food and ask them, what do you think a proper portion is, they tend to show bigger portions. So what we know is they tend to eat more based off portions. And if they think that portion levels, you know, if they eat their own portion level, but they don't realize they're eating 2 portions, that might be education that we can help with. In food recall studies, obese people seriously underestimated the amount of food consumed when compared with non-obese people. So just not understanding, recognizing, or maybe counting, you know, how many grams you're actually taking in, how many calories are you actually consuming. And once you show people their food logs, or if you have people begin to track their food logs, then they're going to have a kind of self-responsibility to understand, well, okay, if I've eaten all these things today, I had 6,000 calories today. Tomorrow I had 7,000 calories. The next day I had 4,000 calories. I'm averaging 5,500 calories. You know, my basal metabolic rate is 2,000, and so I'm at a surplus of 3,000 calories because I'm sedentary and I don't move that much. So you're almost gaining a pound a day right there if that was your current eating pattern. Because I mean, 3,500 calories is 1 pound of food. If you're overdoing it, you can gain weight real quick. Okay, your body utilizes all the energy it consumes. So once you put that energy in, your body consumes that energy and stores it as fat, or we get rid of it as waste. And your body is going to store every macronutrient it can. Okay. So your RMR, really important. You need to understand this for not only personal training, health teachers, phys ed teachers. It's always good to review to talk about your resting metabolic rate, or your RMR. So your resting metabolic rate, or how much energy we expend on internal work. So your body needs a certain amount of energy to do its job on a day-to-day basis. And so if I'm laying in a hospital bed all day long, my body still needs a certain amount of calories to just sit there and perform respiration, okay, my heartbeat, okay, it could be blinking, it could be moving side to side like this, little things like that, just to operate, just to be on a bed, okay, that's our RMR. And so mine is about 2,000 calories. So I can just lay in bed all day. My body needs 2,000 calories just to do that. Okay, so your resting metabolic rate is what your body does at rest. Okay, can vary by as much as 20% across individuals. So gender, age, ratio of lean body mass to fat mass, pregnancy, nursing, menstruation, infections and fever, hormonal imbalance, and possibly race. Okay, so there may be some differences across different populations and individuals in how you kind of get rid of your fat. It might just depend on your age, your weight, everything. Okay, the thermic effective food feeding, or TEF, we use 10% of our consumed calories to digest, absorb, and convert our food into ATP. So the TEF, or thermic effective food feeding, or thermic effective food, is basically when we eat something that is a high protein or a complex fat, complex carb, we have to break that down. And when we break foods down, like lean meat, it takes longer to break down. Or something that has high fiber, our body has to mechanically try to break that down and convert it into amino acids. That's a longer process than just taking a donut and putting it into the bloodstream or storing it as fat. When you eat something like chicken breast or lean steak, your body has to really churn that. It has to release more gastric juices. It has to burn that and break that down. It takes longer to do that. And so we actually utilize more calories by burning things like lean meats and complex carbs and high fiber foods down. So thermic effective exercise is energy used to do external work. So average use is 15 to 20% in industrialized nations. So basically, what the thermic effective exercise is how much exercise we're performing. So you have your resting metabolic rate. Let's just say it's 2,000 calories. So I need 2,000 calories to maintain everything that I do. And then 10% of that, I might add like, okay, maybe 200 calories I burn using the TEF. So there's 2,200 calories right there that I need based on what I eat and my RMR. Now the thermic effect of exercise is now what am I doing? So now I'm gonna burn 1,000 calories. I went for a 2-mile walk, and I did 2 workouts, and then I went rowing, and I burned 1,000 calories. So I burned 3,200 calories. I have to eat 3,200 calories in order to maintain the energy quota for that day. Okay, so your energy burn, your RMR, you can combine all that to figure out how many calories you're burning. Okay, and so when we look at this guide here, I have a determining caloric intake guide. Okay, and so what you can do is males and females have different calculations, but what you do is if you're male 66 plus 5 times your height plus 13.8 times your weight minus 6.8 times your age, okay? And so the RMR is expressed in kilocalories per day, height is expressed in centimeters, weight is expressed in kilograms, and age is expressed in years. So here I am here, 215-pound male subject. So 215 pounds divided by 2.2. So go ahead and if you want, you can put your weight down and divide your weight by 2.2 and get your kilograms. And then take your feet by inches. And so I have 72 inches, 6'2". And then I multiply that by 2.54, which is 182.9 centimeters. And here would be my example here. So 66 times 5 times my height, which is 182.9 centimeters, plus 13.8 times 97.7 kilograms, minus 6.8 times 50. So I'm not sure why that says 50. I should say 35, but maybe this is for somebody else. This isn't for me. So this is for somebody else, but theirs is at, kind of similar to mine I talked about earlier, 2,000 calories per day. So that would be their resting metabolic rate. 2,000 calories per day their body needs to function. Now, obviously, if you have lots of calories, that's not a problem for you. But if you're exceeding that by expending, more energy and you're burning 1,000 calories per day, then you're going to need to eat at least 3,000 calories that day to feel normal, to kind of feel like you're able to still move. But some people can go through intermittent fasting. Some people can go, 40 days without food. We've heard of people going through fasting through many days. So you don't need those calories, but once you get to a certain body fat percent, so I think it's 2% for men, 2% for men, 4 to 6% for women. But if you go under those for men or women, then you're gonna lose all function. So you also don't want to lose too much body fat. So for men, 12 to 16% would be a pretty healthy percentile. From 16 to 25%, you're getting a little bit higher. And then once you're at 25% or 20% or over, it's a little bit high. For women, you probably want to stay above 16%, so 16 to 18% would probably be a good range, 16 to 20%, just because once it gets under, if it gets under 12% or even under 15%, you can have complications with reproduction and stuff like that. So let's go back to our PowerPoint now. If you ever want to go back and if for your summary or your evaluation or for your application, if you want to apply the Harris-Benedict equation to find out what your RMR is, I have those equations here, and then you can just go back. I also have determining daily caloric need. So this is taking your RMR and multiplying it by an activity multiplier. Okay, so your equals your daily caloric need. So this depends on how much you move. And so you take your RMR and you multiply it by 1.3 if it's very light for women, or 1.4 if it's very light for a man, or if it's very vigorous, it's 2.2 for a woman and 2.4 for a man. And what you do is multiply your RMR times your activity multiplier, and that would be how many how many calories you would need that day. And then you might have some thermic effective food in there, which would be up to 10%. Okay. Also, we can talk about carbohydrate and how much carbohydrates you should be consuming. So this would be a carbohydrate calculator, taking your body weight, dividing it by 2.2 first, and then multiplying it by vigorous exercise or sedentary lifestyle. Okay. We also have determining protein intake if you want to do that. So how much you work out, how active you are. So you're taking your body weight and you're dividing it by 2.2, and then you're multiplying it by one of these protein needs that you need. Okay. So, and I also have a determining fat consideration. So if you want to determine how much fat, protein, and carbs you need in your diet, this would be a personal training way to find out. So, but health and physical education teachers can also use this as well. Okay. I think it's important to figure out how much calories you are burning and figuring out what foods you are eating, and then making sure that you have an idea of what happens when you eat certain foods and what happens when you eat certain styles. Okay, so you know that carbs are a preferred energy source. Remember, it's hard to store glycogen. It's heavier. And when we eat high quantities of carbs, the pancreas produces insulin to regulate glucose levels in the blood. So we've been talking about simple carbs, fruit, refined grains as sweeteners spike glucose levels. And complex carbs or whole grains, beans, vegetables cause a slower, longer burn and more stable level. Okay, that would increase our thermic effect of food as well. Insulin spikes inhibit fat oxidation. Okay, obviously eating a lot of sugar means lots of calories, excess energy storage. But if insulin inhibits fat oxidation, consumption of simple carbs affects our weight in a second way. Sweets actually make it hard to burn stored fat even when we are out of accessible glucose. So we've talked about that analogy where you're not able to get the pizza inside the house. In this scenario, we will oxidize amino acids before triglycerides. Okay, eating more fat does not encourage fat oxidation. We still burn glucose and glycogen stores first. So we're not literally burning fat when we are moving. So whenever we're moving, a process called glycolysis has to occur to break down fat in order to turn it into sugar to use as fuel. Okay, this is especially true if we eat fat and simple carbs in the same meal. Examples of the worst case scenarios here. Obviously something like ice cream and potato chips. Okay, the fats are immediately stored. The simple carbs are burned immediately. And if fiber content is low, we are hungry again very soon. So something like having, like I said, chips in the ice cream there. The fats will not be burned and they will stay on our bodies. So eating for weight loss. Given what you just learned, why do low carb diets like Atkins and South Beach diet help people lose weight? Are these diets sustainable and are they healthy? So in my opinion, as far as low carb diets working, I think it helps just to reduce caloric intake. Two, I think it's going to help control your blood sugar levels. So are these diets sustainable? That just depends on the individual. The video, Dr. Gerber states that the best diet is the one that works for that individual. So you're probably going to be doing a lot of learning when you're trying to help somebody with a diet. And are they healthy? Okay. Are they mentally healthy? Are they socially healthy? Are they physically healthy? That's going to matter too, as far as does eating for weight loss actually work. So what should be our primary food groups for optimum health and weight management? So that might be something you can think about in your summaries or your reflections. What should be our primary food groups for optimal health and weight management? Well, that could probably depend obviously on the individual, and then might just depend on your own opinions, right? Some people have very narrow opinions because maybe they've seen it firsthand. They know somebody with diabetes, but they can eat whatever they want, or maybe they can't. So it just depends on the individual, right? So healthy eating plan. What do you think should be our primary food groups for optimal health and weight management? And if you want to figure out what if you want to determine your caloric intake guide, I have this document here in Module 6. Okay, so basically we went over all of the content in Module 6 today. I know it looks like a lot, but a lot of it are just some links that are going to just give you some more information if you need it. And then for homework tonight, all y'all are just going to be reading social influences on eating and physical activity behaviors, and daily routines can help prevent obesity. So those will be two things that you will all go over for homework, okay?